Rob from 3ARC and also Dr. Russell Blamey, who unfortunately are not here. But what we're going to do is go through quite quickly, and then I'd love to spend time on questions if you can resist the impulse to rush out there and get lunch. So I just want to start off by acknowledging traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. So this paper actually does showcase the use of best practice social marketing. Thank you, is that better? Good. In terms of how we can use it to guide the development and testing of an enhanced energy rating label. So we use a shortcut, ERL. And some of us in the room have probably done work in this area before. And I was just mentioning to our lovely colleague from ECA here that I started in this business about 30 years ago looking at the energy ratings of light bulbs. That was one of the issues at that time. So this is an issue we've been tackling for a long time. We know that there are appliances and products that if only consumers would purchase, it could actually save not only them money, but also reduce our carbon footprint and improve the impact of humans on the environment. So this study was all about not only adding to the huge body of literature on the subject, but actually coming up with an evidence base to make a real change that would make a real difference. And I think that is one of the reasons we were successful in being commissioned to do this work, because we actually stood back and said, we don't want to do the research for this project. We actually want to help you to make a difference. And so, of course, we want to do the research for the project too. But not just more research for research's sake. A lot of us have been doing this for a long time and we just can't keep on that merry-go-round. We've got to do research that actually provides very clear direction. So for this paper, for this conference, what I'm going to do is demonstrate how the project used best practice social marketing to come up with a better design and recommendations to actually change consumer behaviour. So we started off, as those of you that were part of our workshop on Wednesday will know, with a logic method for the planning of the project. So this is all about trying to get agreement around the room from multiple stakeholders about what success would look like. And we're going high level here. So what we're getting agreement on is that actually at the end of the day, what we want to see is a net zero, a world for our children to grow up in, with air, with water, with food, not poisoned through climate change. So in order to do that, we need to reduce carbon emissions. And then we look at specifically what behaviour do we need different groups to do to get us to that point. And so in this case, for this particular project, of course we can't change everything in one research project. What we wanted to do was focus on how to encourage consumers who purchase a set of different products to buy more energy efficient products, and don't buy any, or find a different way to use them to reduce carbon emissions. So then what we did was we were guided by best practice behavioural theory around what motivates human behaviour and how to shift people through stages of change in order to develop recommendations for an initiative that would help to change behaviour. So then our research fed into the initiative development to put the precursors in place to change the behaviour, to create reduced carbon emissions and a better world for our children to grow up in. That's the logic for the project. So it involves 6 stages of work over about a 7-month period that was completed about July last year. The first one was quite an intensive planning process to get everyone on the same page. And we did involve both the New Zealand ECA and the Australian Department of Climate Change, Environment, Energy and Water, I think I got that right, and multiple different categories of people within those organisations. But we also, Rob spent a lot of time on an intensive literature review of who else is dealing with this issue around the world. What are they using? How are they communicating to consumers about the energy efficiency of different products and what's working and what's not working? Stage 2 was that. Stage 3 was initial qualitative research to try to understand how people are using the energy rating label, and whether or not it's working and impacting their decisions, and get reaction to some initial design concepts that had emerged from the literature review. Stage 4 was further testing. So once we'd worked out what was working, come up with recommendations, it was an iterative process of improving the design options. Stage 5 was where we got the quantitative evidence base to be actually able to say, if we change the label, it will impact on consumer behaviour, and to what extent. And then stage 6 was bringing it all together in the report. So the research actually involved quite a lot of focus groups and interviews and surveys over that period of 7 months for the project. We drew on theory. Of course, we looked at COM-B in terms of consumers' capability, opportunity and motivation to actually purchase energy efficient appliances. And we also looked at how we could shift them through the stages of change. What we found in terms of the insights was that people are motivated by multiple factors in terms of deciding which appliances to use. So the purchase drivers, assuming that there are energy efficient appliances available for that consumer, were definitely around the purchase price, how much can I afford to pay? Functionality, is it actually going to do what I need it to do? Does it have that capacity to do all my washing and keep me warm or cold? Is it energy efficient? For some people was important. And also the brand and perceived quality of the product. So those were the 4 predominant drivers. And all of the ones that weren't energy efficiency appeared to be much more important to people in that moment of deciding which product to buy. Although there are some people for whom energy efficiency is a primary driver. So how did consumers actually understand the information on energy rating labels? Has everyone seen an energy rating label like this? All right, let's be really honest. Can I have a show of hands? Who's actually used an energy rating label when deciding which appliance to purchase? All right, now keep your hand up if you actually understood the information on the energy rating label. Yeah, okay, there's a lot of this. Okay, so your husband did. Okay, fabulous. Good on him. Okay, so what we found was there was really high recognition of the label, and this made it really, really hard to make a decision to change the label because we have really high consumer familiarity and trust of the label. However, what it actually meant and how to use it, there was much less awareness and knowledge about. And the extent to which it was actually influencing consumers was variable, and the extent to which it could compete with the other purchase drivers and actually get energy efficiency on the agenda was also really differed between different consumers. So the barriers to use and understanding were around a lack of awareness about the benefits of energy efficiency, exacerbated by a lack of access to the ERL for people that do their research and purchasing online, because isn't mandatory to show an ERL when you're advertising products online, although it is mandatory to have them present in store. And a lack of information, even if you do get to see the ERL when you're making a decision, what does it actually tell you, and can you really interpret it so that you know how to take that into account when you're trading off the purchase price and all of the other associations around the product and what your needs are and what you want to be seen to have in your kitchen, bedroom, bathroom or other area. So I won't go into all of the barriers, but I will say that it was a trade-off definitely for consumers. They needed to trade off energy efficiency benefits against price, functionality and brand considerations. So to increase the uptake of more purchasing energy efficient appliances, we really needed consumers to understand how the purchase price can be offset by lower energy bills should they purchase a more energy efficient appliance. So that's quite a big leap from a label with lots of stars to actually realising that means I could save money. And help the environment. Okay, so there's some missing information here. So where we got to was that the energy rating label really needed to go beyond providing kilowatt per hour information. Okay, who knows about what that means? Yes! 1. Anyone else? Okay. 2. Oh, well, you were. 3. Okay, 3. So that's actually pretty good. But basically what we identified was that the energy rating label really needed to communicate the core benefits that would motivate consumers to reduce their energy costs and impact on the environment and associate those things with this purchase decision that they were in the process of making. So we needed to link energy efficiency to the benefits of a cost saving and a reduced environmental impact by displaying running costs and using a green arch for higher rated products. So after multiple rounds of iterations, these are the 4 designs that were put into the final round of research, which was the 4,500 or was it 5,000 consumer surveys across Australia and New Zealand. So the label A is the status quo label. Label B and C and D all replaced the red arch with the green arch because what we found from the research was green is associated with the environment and helping the environment, and it's also a go rather than a stop, right? So the green arch was a very compelling change that consumers suggested and reacted positively to. But also what you can see, actually I don't know if you can see, and I don't want to bugger this up, but in here, instead of kilowatts per hour, we've actually got estimated energy costs. Okay, estimated energy costs, and in this very tricky design over here, we've actually got both. We've got the kilowatts per hour, we've got the estimated energy cost, but we've also got how it compares with every other appliance in this category. So are you buying the lowest cost to run washing machine or the highest cost to run washing machine? And you can actually calculate the savings over the potential life of the product. So we tested these and we were on tenterhooks. Has all this work to design these new labels, which we'd done ourselves, is it going to result in any difference? Are consumers actually going to purchase more of these energy efficient appliances with these different labels on, or does it make no difference at all? So it was quite scary to see what would happen, to really test. So what we found, though, thank goodness, was that actually all of the enhanced designs had some increased impact in terms of encouraging consumers to purchase energy efficient products. I think it was label B and label D actually had the biggest impact, and what they did was they increased between 11 and 16% more choices for the most energy efficient product compared to the status quo label, which is label E. They also had a number of other positive impacts. So we used exchange in the development of this label creation to be able to offer consumers the opportunity to save money, help the environment, and also purchase a high quality product if they bought a more energy efficient appliance. So that was the exchange that we were communicating in the label. And what we knew we had to do was compete. Our energy efficient product had to compete with all of the other purchase drivers that might be of more importance to people. We needed to use a more developed segmentation approach if we're following best practice social marketing. So as we have mentioned earlier, we looked at what stages of behaviour are consumers in Australia and New Zealand, and what do we need to do to shift them through those stages of change. So this is a behavioural segmentation that was conducted, but in addition to that, we also did a psychographic segmentation using the quantitative data and looking at people's choices around the products that they were going to purchase. So we're able to actually size different segments in the population and look at their predisposition towards purchasing energy efficient appliances and what would be required in order to shift them. So what you can see there is just how different those different segments are in terms of the importance of energy efficiency and the motivation behind energy efficiency. It may be saving money, but it may also be to help the environment. And when we're looking at strategies that we need to take if we want to maximise the increase of consumer uptake of energy efficient appliances, goes well beyond the label, of course. So I'll just skip to this because we're almost at the end. We recommended an integrated behaviour change program using the levers of design, which is the design of the energy rating label, but also education, regulation, communications and incentives to increase consumer capability, opportunity and motivation to purchase energy efficient appliances and to shift them through the stages of change. So we recommended the change to either one of these two labels. Each of them seemed to have a very similar impact. However, we felt label D, this one with the comparative information, for consumers who understood it, was very powerful. However, we were worried that not many consumers would understand it, but it was pretty similar, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, and the same facts.
Thank you, Rob. Rob should have been up here actually presenting. And then in terms of increasing consumer capability, well, it was all about increasing knowledge and skills of consumers to interpret the information and to use it to make more informed decisions. In terms of opportunity, there was a big issue around access to the information, given that there wasn't a mandatory use of the label. So that was one of the recommendations to do, as well as quite a few others. And with the opportunity, it was also around the way that the energy efficiency information is displayed by retailers and in-store, so that it becomes a more prominent component in terms of the attributes of the product. I do need to say that these recommendations that were provided are only recommendations. Decisions about whether to act on them across New Zealand and Australia have not been finalised at this point, so I don't want everyone to think this is going to be the new label, because at this stage that decision hasn't been reached. And yes, we needed to increase consumer motivation, and of course it is around the fact that they're going to save money, but it was also very strongly around the environment. So those two core benefits, and a feel-good benefit for consumers was in there too. I'm just going to finish, I think. So I do have 2 minutes. Oh, well, no, I think I'll take questions. Thank you.